Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Place Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. So the most important news that is relevant for your prelims and mains examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with news topic list. Today is 13th of May. The first news is India to expand genome sequencing network to the neighboring countries. Second, hunger risk from the climate threat. We'll see the detail about this as well. Third, US hosts ASEAN leaders target to counter China. Fourth, India's industrial estimate released by NSO. And the last is an editorial with delimitation over a look at this state for Jammu and Kashmir. Apart from this discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. So starting with the first news of the day, that is India to expand genome sequencing network to the neighboring countries. This become important for General Studies Paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement, evolving India's and affecting India's interest. So the Prime Minister of India has recently addressed the second global COVID virtual summit, and in this summit he has announced that India's genomic sequencing network would be extended to the neighboring countries. This is India's proactive role in terms of assisting our neighboring countries. Now, the Prime Minister has announced that India's SARS-CoV-2 Genomics Consortium, also known as Insacog, एक नेशनल मल्टीनेशनल एजेंसीज हैं जो कि कॉन्स्टोरियम ऑफ जीनोमिक सीक्वेंसिंग लेबोरेटरीज के बारे में देखती हैं. इट वाज एक्चुअली established in December 2020 that would be soon extended to the neighboring countries. This is something which India has been vocal about, and India said that it would be assisting to all the neighboring countries. The PM has also highlighted that genome surveillance play a very crucial role for all the variant of concern of the novel coronavirus. जो VOC हैं उनको जितने भी VOCs हैं उनके लिए एक पहले ही बिफोर हैंड अलर्टनेस जारी कर देती है जहाँ पे जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग के थ्रू हमें ये सारी इंपॉर्टेंट इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल सकती है. सो देयर आर टू वेरिएंट दैट इज बीइंग रिलीज्ड बाय WHO एक तो वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न रेज करती है और एक है वेरिएंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, राइट. सो दीज आर द टू वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न, वेरिएंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट के बाद रिलीज की जाती है. आफ्टर things become severe, it become a variant of concern. So India, in terms of providing assistance to the neighboring countries for the genome surveillance, would play a very crucial role. Now, Insacog की अगर बात करें, this is a consortium that was established to expand whole genome sequencing across the India with aims to understand how the virus spread and evolved. To understand the inception of the virus, उसकी क्या मिथैलिटी है, किस तरह से उसकी कितनी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं, उनको समझने के लिए इंसाकॉग काम करती है. Now, any changes to the genetic code, mutation in the virus that can be observed on the analysis of sequencing of the sample is taken into the laboratories under the supervision of the Insacog. That is India SARS-CoV-2 Genome Consortium. Now, India has developed a low-cost mitigating technology for testing, treating, and data management, which is definitely going to help all the neighboring countries also. India Genome Consortium has contributed significantly to the global database on virus as well. Now, strategy की अगर बात करें किस तरह से ये चीज़ें पूरी काम करती है. So, the target sample, international arriving passengers, country scenario during stay, infection, vaccinations और travel stay, ये सारी चीज़ें target sample से ली जाती हैं. Community sample की बात करें, this is being collected from the states, district, usually scenario जैसी हो उसके accordingly, and surveillance is done according to the labs, hospital, high transmission and low transmission areas. Now, reinfection की अगर बात करें, repeated infection or infected post single dose full coverage is a part of the strategy upon which how the sample is being collected. Now, Insacog की अगर बात करें, this was jointly established by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Biotechnology, right? So DBT, CSIR, ICMR मिलकर के इसने बनाया है. So this all the organization become important for your examination. It aims to assess the SARS-CoV-2 variants of Indian patients, and it also correlates with the genome sequencing data that is clinically, epidemiologically advanced preparedness करती है. Public health intervention में जो prevention level की ज़रूरत है वो Insacog provide करती है. Now it's a consortium which is having a 38 laboratories pan India. Now, second global summit के बारे में अगर बात करें, what was a main highlight of this summit? So this summit was co-hosted by United States, Bliss, Germany, Indonesia, and Selgate. Right? So they convinced the overall partner and organization around the world to correct efforts to shot into arm and enhance the testing and treatment. किस तरह से testing, treatment, COVID-19 से related बढ़ाई जा सकती है, and even to protect the health worker, that is again important, and to finance and build a security for any future pandemics that can happen to the world. The summit has also garnered a new financial commitment totaling about 3.2 billion assistance, but ये अभी तक अनाउंस नहीं की गई. ये एंटिसिपेटेड है कि इतनी अमाउंट की असिस्टेंस भी मिलेगी. This include 2.5 billion COVID-19 and related response activities and 712 million new commitment towards the new preparedness of the pandemic, the Global Health Security Fund, which is assisted at the World Bank also. तो कुछ global level पे recognitions की बात की गई है that how we as a country, entire world as a family need to come together and prepare a roadmap for any future pandemic which relates to the COVID-19 at present. Now, global supply chain and WHO reforms की बात की है Prime Minister ने. The Prime Minister of India has categorically stated that coordinated global response is required to combat the future health emergency. So India was vocal about this part that we need to have a coordinated global response. And the Prime Minister has also said that there's a need to build a resilient global supply chain. This is not only for India, but for entire world has to cooperate in this, right? And enable the access to vaccine and medicine. India ने Gavi initiatives के through बहुत सारे countries को help किए vaccines. Now the Prime Minister also said that WTO, particularly TRIPS agreements जो हैं intellectual property right को लेकर के वो flexible होनी चाहिए ताकि humanity को इसका actual benefits मिल पाए. Now WHO must reform and strengthen to build more resilient global and healthy security architecture. So this can again be an important topic for your essay and for the mains examination. Now India की vaccination journeys की अगर बात करें, in the speech the Prime Minister has said that India's vaccination program is largest in the world and India has fully vaccinated almost 90% of its adult population, right? And India supplies over 200 million doses to 98 countries through a bilateral program that is a COVAX program which call for global distribution of the vaccines network, which is again very significantly India has contributed. And India has developed a low-cost COVID mitigation technology for testing, treating, and data management, right? So this is how the vaccination policy for India goes. And to some extent, अभी जितनी progress हुई है उससे ये कहा जा सकता है कि although we have successfully implemented the procedures, कुछ बीच में delay हुई थी, but for time being, everything is working on the right direction. Now, giving you a brief information about the genome sequencing process, it might be important for the prelims examination. तो आपको कुछ basic fundamentals पता होने चाहिए कैसे ये काम करती है. First, there is a DNA extraction. जो genome sequencing है उसमें जो DNA है पहले उसकी extraction होती है. Second is DNA sharing. The third process is DNA library preparation. Fourth is DNA library sequencing, and final the product is being read out. So you can just take the screenshot of this video और आप बेसिक चीज़ें पढ़ सकते हैं. जो some basics हैं जैसे किस किस तरह के न्यूक्लियोटाइड्स होती हैं एक क्रोमोसोम्स में या DNA में, that is ATGC, right? So these are some of the things that would be again important for examination. Now, hunger risk from a climate threat, important for general studies paper 2, welfare schemes for the vulnerable section of the population by the center and the states. The report published की गई है by International Food Policy Research Institute on the climate change, and they have said that India की जो food productions है that can drop to 16% by numbers, और जो हंगर की पॉपुलेशन है जो हंगर रिस्क है वो परसेंट तक इंक्रीज हो सकती है ड्यू टू द क्लाइमेट चेंज. So this topic is also important for General Studies Paper 3, where environmental pollution, degradation and EI is concerned. फ्यूचर हंगर रिस्क को लेकर के क्या रिपोर्ट पब्लिश की गई है. सो द नंबर ऑफ इंडियन एट द रिस्क फॉर हंगर by 2030 is expected to increase by 73.9 million actually, right? So ये 2030 के लिए डेटा है and it affects because of the climate change, or this can increase number to 90.6 million, right? And the aggregated food production index will similarly have a condition where it will drop from 1.6 to 1.5. Now, average calorie consumptions में कोई impact नहीं होगी. This is a good news. It is anticipated that climate change will not impact the average calorie consumptions. Right? For India, this is projected roughly to be around 2600 calorie per capita by 2030, and in the climate change scenarios. So it is very essential that everyone should take the basic requirement of calorie. अगर आप ज़्यादा calorie लेते हैं, then it is possibly that extra calorie that you are consuming might convert into fat. So make sure you have a fair idea how much calorie to consume. Average एक students के लिए भी 26 से 2800 तक calorie होनी चाहिए. Now, more about the report. The baseline projection indicate that the global food production will grow by 60%. This was for 2010, and ये आगे level 2050 तक context में बढ़ेंगी depending upon the climate change condition. Production and demand are projected to grow more rapidly in developed countries due to projected growth in population and incomes. Now, diets are also shifting towards a higher value foods, which includes fruits and vegetable, processed foods, animal source foods, and outside high income countries, right? So these were some of the important findings of the report. Now, meat productions के बारे में भी कुछ बातें कही गई हैं. This is projected that it should double in South Asia, West and Central African countries by 2030, and it would triple by 2050. So these are the countries upon which the final meat consumption or production would be. However, regional differences की अगर बात करें in access to food mean that nearly 500 people are projected to remain at the risk of hunger. Or globally, 70 million people ऐसे होंगे that will be risk on the hunger because of the climate change, including more than 28 million from Eastern and Southern African countries. So South Africa में situation और worst है. The people even do not get the basic nutritional requirement and do not get their daily calorie requirement done also. तो इन countries में situation और worst project की गई है. Now, US host ASEAN leaders target to counter China, something important for General Studies Paper 2, effect of policies for politics of developed and developing countries. So, US President has recently hosted the leader of Association for South Asian Nation in Washington, D.C., and US has pledged to spend almost 150 million on infrastructure, security, and the pre-pandemic efforts to counter the rising influence of China. Now, US has been vocal about the presence of China, specifically in the Indo-Pacific and South China Sea. So this is how US is preparing to counter China its best possible efforts. Agenda क्या रही इस summit की? The summit intended to cover an array of topics which includes trade, human rights, and climate change. जो तीन most important topics थे about the discussion. And the US has focused upon Russia-Ukraine crisis also, which has grappled with China's influence in the Pacific. Economic package की बात की गई है. Economic plan would be there for the Indo-Pacific economic framework during the week summit. Now, investment by US, the United States government has announced that there would be investment which include 40 million for clean energy project in South Asia, and the US also pledged to invest 60 million to deploy additional maritime assets led by Coast Guard to the region, perform training and other activities coordinated with the countries aimed at enforcing the maritime laws. और US administration ने कहा है that they would spend 15 million to expand the health surveillance, specifically in the South Asia, better detect COVID-19 and airborne related in this region. So these are some of the investment that will call for a future insights and roadmap that how things could be executed, that any problem in future should be avoided. Now, friction with China की बात की गई. The summit marked for the first time that the ASEAN leaders have gathered as a group with the United States, and their first meeting were hosted by the United States President, that is US President, since 2016. चाइना ने अभी तक 90% क्लेम की हुई है साउथ चाइना सी में, विच इज़ अ कंसर्न फॉर ऑल द आसियान मेंबर्स ऑल्सो. So the world most important shipping passage है South China Sea. Make sure you go through the map of South China Sea. I have several times discussed the map. This become important for your prelims also. So ये एक ऐसी वे है, एक ऐसी रास्ता है जहाँ पे important shipping passage गुजरती है. This is the reason being the tension has been escalated between the member countries, the neighboring countries, which include specifically Vietnam and Philippines. They have been claiming their rights in the South China Sea. Now, something brief about ASEAN, which would be again important for your exam. It was actually established in 1967 by signing the ASEAN Declaration, also known as Bangkok Declaration. And the Association for South Asian Nations is a regional organization that was established to promote political and social stability amid the rising tension in the Asian Pacific post-colonial states. Now, member countries की अगर बात करें, many a times UPSC has asked दिस क्वेश्चन और कई बार दूसरे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन के लिए भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो मेंबर कंट्रीज आर ब्रुनाई, कंबोडिया, इंडोनेशिया, लाओस, मलेशिया, म्यांमार, फिलीपींस, सिंगापुर, थाईलैंड एंड वियतनाम. So this is a map for all the member countries. You can take out the screenshot and just you can learn the members name. You can have a mnemonics also to learn the member countries name. Now, India's industrial estimate released by NS, important for general studies paper 3, that is Indian economy and issue related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. As per the estimates which was released by the National Statistical Office, India's industrial production will grow by 1.9% in March, and it has only increased higher than 1.7% growth that was recorded in February. So this is a sign of a positive, basically post recovery, or just as a post COVID recovery की अगर बात करें, this can be a signal, but again there was an anticipations कि numbers और बढ़ सकते. The manufacturing growth has stayed weak to 0.9%, just stacked better than 0.8% recording in the preceding year. Index of industrial production growth की अगर बात करें, 5th month in the row, just as in May, we have reached almost to May. So the index on industrial production has been lower than 2%. Electricity generation की बात करें, electricity generation and mining has a grew output of 6.1% and 4.5% respectively. So electricity के लिए 6.1 and for mining it is 4.5. On a sequential basis, however, industrial production was up 12.5% in March. और February में ये number उससे थोड़ी सी ऊपर है. But again, the anticipation is that in the coming quarters, this number would again take a toll. Other sectors की performance की अगर बात करें, productions of consumer durable continued to shrink on a 6th month in a row, contracting for 3.2 in March, while consumer durable output fell out to be the 3rd consecutive month, dipping to 5%. Infrastructure और construction में बात करें, this has reported a healthy 7.3% uptick, with the primary goods rose up to 5.7%. और capital goods और intermediate goods में, however, they have grew up to only 0.7% and 0.6% respectively. Now moving to the editorial of the day, with delimitation over, a look at the slate for the J&K. So this is important for General Studies Paper 2, Parliament and State Legislature structure, function, conduct, power and privileges and issues rising from it. So I'll be simplifying this editorial by 4 important subheads. That is delimitation exercise, which was conducted recently, gaps in the report, court's hearing kya hai, and even focus on the freedom. So the entire editorial focuses upon the recent delimitations committee reports on the J&K. So recently, the Delimitation Commission has redrawn a map for Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. Why they have done? Because recently there was a bifurcation of J&K state into Jammu and Kashmir and UTs. So they have raised critical queries on the commission draft during the consultation phase. Most of the concerns were not addressed. Now this editorial concerns about the loopholes that still exist with the commission report. So delimitation की exercise की अगर बात करें, the commission Establishment was a controversial from the starting only because जब ये स्टार्ट की गई थी जो यूनियन होम मिनिस्ट्री उन्होंने 5 स्टेट्स की डिलिमिटेशंस की बात की थी, राइट? एंड मोस्ट ऑफ देम बेसिकली ये कहे गया था कि बाकी जो स्टेट्स बचेंगे उनको 2026 में डिलिमिटेशंस के रिकमेंडेशंस पे और स्टेट्स की सीट्स की बाइफर्केशन की जाएगी. बट दिस डिसीजन वॉज रिजेक्टेड बाय मेजर ऑफ द स्टेट. तो 4 स्टेट्स ने रिजेक्ट किए और द ओनली स्टेट दैट हैज अंडरगोन द delimitation exercise was Jammu and Kashmir. And the reason being because the fresh necessary of delimitation was for Jammu and Kashmir, which was divided into 2 union territories, has held under the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. So it was mandatory for Jammu and Kashmir. Other states has not been agreed to conduct for the delimitations. Now gaps की बात की गई है इस रिपोर्ट में. So the latest delimitation commission report apprehends the long list of people who are pending in terms of their representation and the objections. But the central question है that why Jammu has gained 6 assembly seats and the Srinagar Valley has got only 1 seat increase, right? So total 90 seat कर दी गई है. I have discussed this news in detail. If you have not watched it, do check it out that video. For example, Commission claims to have taken 10 place of the average population at Patwari, जो ward level होती है, and they will measure the redrawing constituency in the flat minus 10% in the hilly areas. But that does not answer the question that why Jammu Kashmir provinces has most seat relatively compared to जहाँ पे population जो है वैली की भी आसपास है. तो ये किस तरह से comparison की गई, ये again एक dubious माना गया है, and this is again which is creating a lot of vagueness for the efforts or the seat allocation that was done by the delimitation commissions. Now, court hearing is the next option or the next resolution. So, amid the ambiguity against the delimitation commission report, the Supreme Court will start hearing the challenges of the Reorganization Act. And if the court direct the challenges are valid, then the delimitation exercise will be nullified. So, still, ये जो खास करके delimitation की जो rules हैं, जो उनके रिपोर्ट्स होते हैं, वो किसी कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में चैलेंज नहीं किए जाते हैं. बट अगेन सुप्रीम कोर्ट अगर इसमें पीआईएल या किस तरह से चीज़ों को देखती है, देन इट कैन बी नलिफाइड ऑल्सो. सो द फॉर्मर स्टेट separately need to be elected leadership, after which the administrative of local level and irrevocably bureaucrats for the 4 year. It is very important that a representation should be there. We have seen that during the exercise, a lot more politicians from the native region were house locked, उनको नज़रबंद किया गया उनके घरों पे, और बहुत सारे ऐसे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स थे जिन पे सेडिशंस के चार्जेस भी लगाए गए. एंड दिस सेड दिस वाज ओनली डन टू इंश्योर ये प्रोसेस पूरी तरह से कंप्लीट हो. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हेन द एक्चुअल फॉर्मेशन ऑफ यूटी वाज टेकिंग प्लेस. नाउ फोकस ऑन फ्रीडम की बात की गई है. देयर वाज अ होप फॉर पीस प्रोसेस इन जम्मू एंड कश्मीर and there's a clean election. Statehood has speedily restored in the new assembly, which determined from the social status, right? जो special status है उसके बारे में. In fact, the commission itself has proposed a report to be placed before the state legislative assembly, जिनके recommendations के बाद ही delimitations की exercise पूरी की जाएगी. और इस exercise से पहले मैंने आपको बताया जिस तरह से जब यूटी फॉर्मेशन हुई थी तो बहुत सारे ऐसे पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज थे, बहुत सारे ऐसे इंडिविजुअल थे, कश्मीर के ऐसे यूथ थे जिन पे सेडिशंस के चार्जेस भी लगाए गए एंड दे आर इन द प्रिजन एंड बिहाइंड द बार्स. रिसेंटली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी ये ऑर्डर दिया है, इट्स अ लैंडमार्क जजमेंट, दैट दे हैव आस्क्ड नॉट टू फाइल एनी फ्रेश एफआईआर इन द सेडिशन चार्जेस, और जो भी प्रोसेस हैं उन सभी को भी स्टॉप किया जाएगा. सो इट्स अ गुड decision coming from the Supreme Court of India. Now moving to the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answer of yesterday question. For first question, the correct option is B. For second question, the correct option is C. Today's MCQ for practice, Malabar exercise के बारे में आपको बताना है. It is an annual trilateral naval exercise between the navies of India, Japan and US. The exercise is held alternatively in Indian and Pacific Ocean. So do check it out. These are some of the important exercises that has recently taken place. Second question of the day, Gender Inequality Index is released by World Economic Forum, UNDP, Save the Children or Transparency International. So do check it out for the correct answers. जितने भी index or report हैं that become important for your prelims examination. So this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.